Okay. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for joining me on the ODAT Chad podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So I thought we would start. I've been doing this lightning round, and sometimes I save it for the end, but it's been fun to kind of warm up with the lightning round. So it's kind of like did you ever watch James Lipton Inside the Actors Studio when he would ask them a bunch of questions?
I
Did you
have
see that?
not.
Oh my God, it's so
Nope.
fun. You have to check it out one of these days. Okay, but it's kind of fun. So do you want to play?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. So what is your favorite, I call it quit lit, but like your favorite recovery book?
I would say Annie Grace, This Naked Mind.
So good.
Yes.
I had her on the podcast. She was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What did you like about that book?
I like the science and the psychology behind why we do what we do. I'm such a nerd when it comes to that it's like, I love memoirs and I love stories that resonate because it makes me feel like I'm not alone.
Yeah.
But just, you can hand that book out to everybody, to people who are loving an addict from far away, or people, who are struggling with gray area drinking, or people who are just sober curious. Like it fits the realm of just so many people that it clicks for the majority of people. It just makes sense. And you can't argue with real life and real examples and your own, when you challenge your own beliefs, you like come up with the answers on your own. So it's not like somebody's telling you this is the way that you have to think. And so it really in depth that it's just that inner psychology that's just, I nerd out on. So I think it's a great book for anybody.
Yeah, I know you're a science girl. And so as soon as you said that, I was like, yes, because
Yes.
Can't argue with science. I guess some people can, but they're not reasonable.
Right.
Yeah, love her book. Do you have like a go-to mantra or quote that you live by?
One that always resonates with me, I would say sobriety delivers everything alcohol promises, because it promised me the moon. And it always, always overpromised and underdelivered in my particular life. And so that really rings true with me.
I had never heard that. That is really good. And so true. Do you have a regular self-care routine? Like, do you do like a morning self-care practice, or do you have more of like a weekly self-care routine for your recovery?
That's a great question. What I do is I wake up every morning, and this is really hard to do, and I wasn't able to do this when my kids were really little, but I found that waking up to them, not for them, was not setting my day on the offense. I was very much on the defense. So they would jump on me and like need a diaper change, or they were fighting over fruit snacks. Like, that's not the way anybody wants to wake up. And so I'm like, okay, if I wake up 15 minutes before, that's it. I'm considering that my morning miracle. I literally get up, have a cup of coffee, pull an affirmation card, and read like 5 minutes out, maybe 10, out of either the big book, Annie Grace's book. I will read an article. I love Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I just finished for the second time. Something that puts me in a state of just positivity, and it grounds me and gives me gratitude. So that's like as simple as I get. And I'm a big believer in bookending my day. So that's how I start my morning, and I end with gratitude. So it's intention and gratitude. Also, what I found is really helpful for me is I am an old school calendar kind of person. And so I like pencil in self-care into my schedule like it's a dentist appointment. It is a non-negotiable, whether that's a Zoom meeting, whether that's me leading a psychoeducational group, whether it's going to therapy, whether it's getting a pedicure. I have to make time for me. And that's something I never did before, because I always put myself on the back burner because I'm a people pleaser. So the morning miracle and the book ending, along with penciling in something that's concrete into my schedule, and I rotate that and keep it fun and creative, that has been really helpful for me in something that's manageable and that I can actually do with my plate as full as it is.
That is so great. I think of it as like a self-care smorgasbord where there's like, I love that you do the different cards and different readers and all kinds of things like that. But it can be overwhelming, right? So making it fun and manageable, like just picking one or two things from the self-care smorgasbord seems to do the trick for a lot of people. What kind of cards do you like to pull?
I actually designed my own. So I have sobriety cards.
Okay.
I also have 2 decks from Gabby Bernstein that
Oh
I absolutely love.
You
Yes.
mean these two?
Yes. Those are it. Yes.
I'm looking at The Universe Has Your
has-
Back and the Super Attractor deck. They're so
I
beautiful.
have them. They are.
Oh
And
my
there's
gosh.
something about just pulling something small and having it to manifest and like bringing you back to that phrase for the day that it has so much power to it.
Yeah.
People can just put that on their screensaver or find something on Pinterest if they don't have a deck of cards. Like every day, go in and find something inspirational that's going to ground you and center you for the day. So when you start to have a crummy day, bring yourself back to what matters. I can only control me. I am powerless over everything else going on in the world right now. And it just allows you to bring yourself back to your own reality and what you can control, which is how you respond to things you're powerless over. So I love those cards.
I do too. And I love the idea of what you said about having an intention for the morning. Your intention for the morning is deliberate and it's mindful and it will absolutely carry you through the day. So yay, I love that. And you mentioned rotating things that you like. So you rotate cards and do you have like a daily affirmation book or like one of those daily readers?
I do. I've got multiple daily readers.
Yeah, everybody.
I have them on anxiety. I have them on parenting. I have the reflection for AA.
Yeah.
I don't want to become complacent in my life journey of alcohol-free living. That's my biggest fear of getting complacent because I know what my disease does to me. It tries to tell me that I can do it again and I can moderate. And, we all know that cliche of your addiction's doing push-ups when you're like in complacency and this is a lifestyle and it can kind of get bored. And if you don't spice it up and you don't have fun and get creative, old ways of thinking and patterns of behavior and habits that we've created have the ability of creeping back in our lives. And so I have to remember that is a lifestyle I never, ever want to go back to because it brought me nowhere that was good. And it took time, but it led me to exactly where I knew it would. And so these little tools are just, they're no brainers. It takes a couple of seconds to do it. And it has such a power behind it for me that it's definitely been a life-saving tool.
I'm glad you mentioned power. There's always a lot of talk of powerlessness in the recovery, and I think it's super important, but it's an incomplete sentence, right? We're powerless over alcohol, not our lives, right? Maybe we are powerless to influence other people or other events, but we definitely have the ability to own our own power, which is kind of what I'm hearing from you about being intentional about what you feed your brain and decisions about how you live your day. So that's really good.
Absolutely.
And so the last of the lightning round questions is, what is one thing that you wish you would have known when you first got sober?
That it's okay to recover out loud. I would say that, my goal was never to get sober. My goal was always to learn to moderate and regulate my drinking. It was always that. And if our minds are so powerful, and if I would have listened to the warning signs of my body, who has, carried my children and has given me high fives to amazing rock stars, and I've traveled all over the world because of my legs, like I have been so unkind to my body. And in the middle of the night, how it would tell me the acid reflux, my gut, my ovaries, like all of those whispers, my migraines in the morning. Some other people take that and they say, wow, this alcohol is not worth those side effects and the symptoms and how I feel mentally and the clarity that's gone. if I would have leaned more into that instead of listening to the mind, which all it is getting is the billboards, the media, the press, the glamour, the camaraderie between motherhood, that will always win. And so it was worth it for me to take that temporary discomfort in the migraines and in the tummy issues, because I liked what I felt in that interim. And so, that's the only thing that I really wish that I would have leaned more into. And you can't go back,
Mhm.
but it's just, not feeling so insecure and so much shame around knowing that I was struggling, that there are so many people that also struggle. And that's like where I'm making it my life's work, is just to say, you know what, I'll be your voice until you find yours, because I didn't feel that there was very many people having the same conversations. And they're important conversations to have because they do save lives.
I love that. I'll be your voice until you find yours. That's so sweet. I mean, yeah, we all need to feel like we're not alone. And I love the idea of recovering out loud. Obviously, I'm doing the same thing, girl. So I love
Yep.
that. Yeah. Well, that's the end of the lightning round. Those are such great answers. I love that. But usually what I do is I have people tell their story for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we can talk about, I know we have some topics in our back pocket about I know you speak a lot about like the mommy wine culture and things like that. So, but I would love to hear your story.
Yes. So I grew up in a very private, well, I guess it wasn't even private, really. I grew up, we pretended to be private. We pretended to have this idea that our life was perfect, and everybody who looked from the outside looking in was like, it's a very prestige, glamorous, high class childhood, had everything I wanted. But, there was always the thing that was missing was communication and honesty. My father was an alcoholic, and not a lot of people knew that. And so they got to see the best version of him, not the version we got to see. And so he struggled for many, many years. My mother tried to hide it the best that she could until you get older and you notice that stuff. And so they decided to split. He ended up having a massive heart attack and dying at the age of 41.
Oh.
And so that was tough. It was tough, not really having a lot of answers, not a lot of questions. I did know when I got older that he had ended up going to treatment. He was a physician and had gotten called in from the medical board that he was practicing under the influence. So rightfully so, he went to treatment, and he did end up choosing sobriety, which is amazing, before he passed away. So I went through life like just being told only that my mom told me, if you end up drinking and driving, you will go to jail and I will never bail you out. So that was the only education I got about alcoholism or alcohol abuse in general. There was no other preventative conversations or care around the substance at all. So, I just didn't choose to drink because I was like, I have the perfect example of what not to be, as opposed to saying I have no other role model that I can fall into the family addiction, and who's going to judge me? Who's going to say anything? Because everybody is, right? And so I went through college, and take it or leave it, fine. It was going to the hospital for the birth of my daughter. And I was handed, over the span of 2 days in the hospital, 8 bottles of wine, Prosecco, champagne, whatever they were, 8 bottles. And in fairness, this was just a very thoughtful gesture from these people that said, motherhood's extremely hard. This helps. And I didn't think much of it. When you're on pain medication and you're sleep deprived and everybody's coming and you just have this adrenaline from your new bundle of joy, you don't think about it. You put it in your bag and you go home. And very quickly, my life turned upside down. My husband got notification that he was deployed to Iraq. I found out that my mother went into hospice, ended up dying 11 days into hospice. So as I'm becoming a mother, I lose my mother. I was diagnosed with postpartum depression that I was so ashamed of, that I was unwilling to seek support. I was isolated. I had a stroke as a result of all of it. There was so many things that happened that my predisposition to alcoholism was like, it was the perfect breeding ground for this predisposition to flourish. And I noticed that I started seeking alcohol for comfort. I started reaching for it because I was alone and I was grieving and I wasn't doing the bereavement work and I wasn't doing the work on my anxiety and I wasn't getting proper sleep and nutrition. And when you keep going back to an addictive substance, you will eventually become addicted. And everywhere in my world, it became a staple. So if I wanted to go to mommy meetups, they're having Baileys in their coffee at 8 o'clock doing laps at the park with the strollers and the baby. I would get invited to yoga and it was mimosas and yoga. I would get invited to a bridal shower at a nice restaurant and it was bottomless mimosas at noon. And so this new way of surviving motherhood and finding my quote unquote people was the staple. Everything was centered around alcohol. So when my world becomes that, what else is going to happen? Those are the people that I'm associating with. So it becomes my whole world. And so as I started finding myself consuming and reaching for alcohol in a different way, I was questioned by people who love me. And of course, don't be ridiculous. I've got this under control. And I heard what they were saying and I kind of recognized it, but who are you to judge? And that's where my mentality was. And so when I got more and more questions and concerns, I decided to start being more secretive about my drinking. So it was hiding it. It was refilling the bottles to make it look like I hadn't drank it. It was, throwing them in different random spots. It was binge drinking in the car and tossing them out the window. And when I began hiding my drinking, it did nothing but make me more isolated, keep my secrets, which kept me sick. It kept me depressed. I truly felt that I was the only one doing this. I was like, my worlds are going to collide between who people think I am and show up as every single day, and this other version of me where I'm so disgusted of where this is taking me. And it got worse and worse. I had hospitalizations. I would try AA and I would pound alcohol in the car before I'd walk in. I would have mandates from my husband: if you don't seek help, I'm going to have to serve you divorce papers and leave you because my children and I don't deserve this. This is not who I married. And the consequences just kept piling up. And the cost, if I didn't quit drinking, would cost me everything. And it's so sad how addiction works because I love my kids so much and I always chose the alcohol over my kids. I wanted to have both, but I couldn't show up under the influence and be a really good mom, which creates shame. I became so shameful, and in that cycle, it kept destroying me even more because I became a bad mom. Not I make bad choices when I'm under the influence, but I am a really good mom when I'm sober. And so it took me inpatient treatment. It took me 4 stints in the hospital. For the highest blood alcohol level I had was a 0.43. It was detox, fatal protocols every single time. I had CPS involvement because of the mandated reporters that picked me up from the police department to the ambulance to the attending physicians to the school principal. It was so destructive of where it took me, that one innocent drink at the very beginning of motherhood. And it doesn't take everybody there. And it took me 6-7 years to get from I'm going to pick this up to I have hit my rock bottom. And so it's a very progressive, sneaky disease that convinced me that doesn't everybody act like a goofball around the fire pit camping, or doesn't everybody not remember dancing on the table at a Christmas party or at a wedding? And so I was always around these people. And so I just assumed that everyone just thought I was fine. I was just maybe once in a while took it overboard, but I was always secretly doing the rest. I'd have a couple martinis at happy hour, But what they weren't seeing was me heading to the store, grabbing 2 more bottles, hiding in my closet, chugging them as I'm having the foil from the rim of the wine bottle cutting my lips as I could just literally chug it. It was to simply black out. And I had lost my values, my morals, my North Star, all respect for everybody that I loved, including myself. And, you know, it was no big one intervention that changed things for me. It was planting seeds. It was the people. It was the hospital staff. It was treatment. It was my partner. It was my higher power. It was my children. It was social media. It was therapy. It was my sobriety tools. So many things that one day I said, I'm going to die and I don't want to die anymore. I was so suicidal during my addiction that's not me. I am so full of life and love and happiness. And it's ridiculously infectious how silly, happy of a person that I am. And in the addiction, I didn't see anything looking outside but mud instead of stars. And so my whole world had just crumbled. So it was just a bunch of little things. I woke up on November 24th of 2016 and said, I will never, this was my last day one. I will never pick up, because that is one thing I have the power to choose and control. There's not a lot that I can control of what happens in this world, but how I choose to deal with it. I am now a person who cannot drink, and that's okay. And I finally figured out and gave myself permission to say, moderation is over. Game is up. We have tried and tried. And I have proved to myself over and over again that alcohol is my thing. And everybody has something like that. Mine happens to be alcohol. So that leaves endless possibilities of things that I can still enjoy to do. And when I made that shift in my mind saying, this isn't a punishment or a life sentence, I'm actually doing my body a favor. I'm doing my mental health a favor. I'm doing this to my family because I love them enough to say, I can't escape life when life gets hard. And that's going to suck. But you know what? I can sit through the discomfort and I'm going to survive. And I'm going to show other people that this is possible too. And it is hard. It is hard. But it is possible. And there are so many people who are doing it. And I have 4 years, and I am so proud of myself. And it has been it took me years to get 7 days in a row. But the thing is that failure can and usually is part of the process. It is just, what do you do with that information? You collect information, you collect evidence that is going to support you readjust what you have for your life and your vision moving forward and go freaking get it. So it's not about I am losing, I am actually gaining information. I'm going to get there. The only prerequisite for me was to not give up. And I didn't. So that's kind of my journey and my story of where I was, how it got to be what it looked like, and where I'm at today.
That's amazing. I love that we ended with don't ever give up, right? Like no matter if you tried and failed 1,000 times, you have to keep trying. And that every little experience is like a seed that's planted and you just never know when it's going to be fruitful. Do you think, you said that, it took years to get 7 days in a row. And I deal with a lot of women who are really struggling to put 30 days together, and there's just lots of day ones, right? And I know it gets really discouraging for people who have like chronic day ones. What would you say to them to give them a little bit of hope?
What I would say is, if you're not a day counter, don't count days. Find some measurable tool that is going to keep you motivated and excited to celebrate a victory. A victory doesn't have to be days. It could be putting up a boundary. It could be maybe less than you drank the day before. It could be, going to a meeting or being a fly on the wall at Zoom. There is so many different ways to measure success in sobriety that if counting the days is more discouraging, do something that's going to build your confidence and your momentum to want to keep going. So I was doing stars and hearts. I'm like, on my calendar, my kids were putting up stickers for me when they were doing their potty training. It was like,
sweet.
Yeah, it was like, wow, there is 8 stars out of 10 days. That means I was sober 8 out of 10, as opposed to I'm a failure, I keep relapsing. This is a person who is not giving up. And that's when my mind shift made that transformation, that I'm not a failure. I am a freaking warrior. And I have 8 days consecutive. It might not be 10, it might not be 30, but that's not realistic for me right now. I can't go there.
Yeah.
And so find that thing that lights you on fire and gets you excited. Maybe it's just sipping on a glass of wine while you're looking at a recovery group, cheering on these people because you're there and you're motivated. There's a reason that you're there. And those are the things that get me so excited, because it doesn't have to just be a day thing. So find those other ways.
I couldn't agree more. So we're talking about celebrating the wins, and there's this idea that whatever you focus on expands. You know, what you think about, you bring about. And when we're focusing on failures, like a day one, just saying that word, I could almost feel like the weight of the word like pulling down on me. But when you think about celebrating the wins, it's like making small progress, taking a baby step, or doing something that you didn't do before. It's so important to celebrate the wins. And that's actually part of rewiring your dopamine reward system, right? The dopamine is like the save button. Like you do something good, you get a hit of dopamine and your brain remembers, oh, do that thing again, because that makes you feel good. So it's literally what you're talking about is like literally rewiring your brain, which is fucking genius. There's a part of me that like hates that we count and measure time, because it's like a double-edged sword. Like it's a great way to measure wins, but it also can create shame for some people. So I like the idea.
Yes.
A star chart. Yeah.
Yes. It's so like weight loss to me, because it's always been a struggle for me too. It's like body image stuff. And when we go and say, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds, well, how do we get there? We get there by a nutrition plan and going to the grocery store and getting a scale and drinking water and having a support system, or going to the gym, moving our body. There's so many tools that we have in our toolbox that we don't give up because we eat a pound or we gain a pound, right? But the way that we measure success too is like sometimes, oh, wow, we lost 2 pounds. So now I'm going to celebrate with a brownie. And I think that's what I did a lot with drinking. I stayed sober for 14 days. I can do this, right?
Right.
And when I did it, it was like, oh, I can drink again. So I'm going to treat myself with a reward, and I'm going to have 1 glass of wine. And it's like, no, have a treat, be something different, like a nice Starbucks or a pedicure or a new journal to write in or a new chip that has your 1 month. There's so many fun, inexpensive ways to celebrate sobriety victories.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to just be days.
By the way, I just lost your camera. Oh, there we go. There you go. Now I see you. No worries. Beautiful picture. I was going to ask you how old your kids are.
My son is 8 and my daughter's 11.
Oh, so cute. And obviously your husband's home from Iraq. Oh my God.
Yes.
You're telling that story. I was like, oh my God. I can't even imagine. I had a neighbor whose son went, and man, counting days. I can't imagine how scary that must have been.
It was.
Sorry, I'm all over the place. There's so many things that we could talk about. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about your amazing group, Recovery is the New Black. You have a very large, like 4,000 women about in this. Is that a private group?
It is. It is a private group for women only with any type of substance or addiction. You know, a lot of it seems to kind of gravitate towards alcohol, but multiple. I mean, a lot of people are polysubstance users. I know I was, caffeine, food, pills, anything.
Sugar.
Yep.
Sugar's my new thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I have a friend that used to say it doesn't matter what the problem is, the solution is the same. The solution is simple, it's spiritual, and it has nothing to do with the problem.
Amen.
But I love your women's group, though. It's very active. There's, thousands of women. What do you attribute the, like, how long has this been around? Recovery?
I I created it 3 years ago. So I was a year into my sobriety when I decided to say, hey, I am feeling pretty comfortable and confident in where I'm at in my sobriety journey. And a lot of people took notice to it. And so I started being a little bit more open on social media. I am a person who had their profiles blocked. I have 20 years of experience in the correctional system. And so being a mental health and substance abuse counselor in maximum security prisons will lead a person to be a very private person. And so for myself, the safety, for lots of different reasons, I had to be really private and anonymous a lot of the time. And I finally decided to take a career shift and decide that this is more important to me than I was done. I was done working in government work. I gave myself my release paperwork and said, you know what, I have a bigger purpose. I've learned what I can here and it's time to move forward. And so I took that message, took my tools, took my education and my own personal experience and said, I want to make a change. I have an audience of women who are just like me that need camaraderie, that need connection, that need tools and need to know they're not alone. And so I started having conversations on Instagram and we were creating this platform where the conversations got so amazing that it was flooding my inboxes. And I said, hey, let's make this over here in a private group where we can have these conversations ongoing and keep this thread going. And that's kind of how the Recovery is a New Black was created. I don't want to be the administrator just, giving content and doing anything other than just providing community. I don't want to sell. I just want it to be a safe place for people to come, have conversations, get tips, have first days, get encouragement, celebrate victories, and brainstorm ways around obstacles and barriers. That's why it's there. That's my heart. And it has just grown to 5,000 women. And it's just a beautiful thing to know across the world that there's so many people who are contemplating this way of living, that they can be a fly on the wall and just to see that other people are living a similar experience and there is hope. Because a lot of times when you go into one of these groups or walk into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, a lot of people can get very sideswiped by, that's never going to be me, these old timers. This is so discouraging that it's very important to look at it as inspiration and hope. That is where I am going to be. I'm going to be there someday. And just for the old timers, it is so important for them to see the newcomers because that's a reminder of where they don't want to go back to. And there's no better reminder of how it feels on day one. Right. Yeah. And we can't forget that because that is our reality. One beautiful evening with greed and addiction will turn into a disaster for me. So it's my baby. I love it. And I love all of my Recovery as the New Black women. I just adore them.
Yeah, no, it's really amazing. There's I love what you said about brainstorming solutions though, right? It's like if we knew better, we would have done better. And so it's like you can't solve problems with the same level of thinking that created them, right? And so I love how we get together. And I don't know if it's not just a woman thing, but I love it when women we are so resourceful. And
yes.
when you bring a problem to a group of women, man, watch out. And when you heal a woman, it's like you heal a family, right? It's like we are the nurturers of the families and the groups that we're in. So,
yep.
Yeah, super important. So how did you get the word out? Did it just grow? Did the group grow like virally on its own? Was there publicity or what do you attribute the fast growth of this group?
Honestly, it was word of mouth and referrals. I have never done any type of social media ad. I've never worked with a publicist.
Mm-hmm.
I am just creating content that is authentic, that is real, and people are taking notice to that. That's all I've done. I've just shifted the followers into different platforms where they can have more serious, safe, without trolls and all of those things, that they can have a safe place to go. And that's it. I get about geez, I don't know, sometimes 30 to 50 requests a day. And I'm manning it all by myself
Right,
just to
really?
know.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to make sure that, they're in there for the right reason. And, it's just been such an amazing group. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no drama in there. Everyone loves on each other, and that's what it's all about. It's all about that. So
Yeah.
it's just that sisterhood and solidarity and saying, hey, I'm really struggling with this, but you're in it, your head's in it, you're emotionally connected. So these women can say, oh, wow, have you thought about that? Or check in with us once you get back from the wedding. Like, that's the cool thing,
Oh
you
God, that's
know?
huge. Yeah.
Yes.
That book
So,
ending. Yeah.
yep, absolutely.
I love that. I'm sure you've had some amazing experiences or stories of people reaching out to you. Do you have anything that come to mind or standout moments, emails,
Jeez.
stories? I know it's hard to pick just one with a group that large. I'm sure you get lots of.
It's so hard. I get them all. I get so many a day. Just off the top of my head, one that I think it'll always stick in my heart. And I think it's because it happened in real life. I had just got done jogging, and I don't run unless someone's chasing me. Let's just be real. And so
Yeah.
I decided, I had this moment of, let's do this. And so I did it, and I needed to go to Home Goods, and I am obsessed with that store. And so I ran in there to get
Same.
something. Yes. And a lady and kind of like a teenage daughter, high school age, were in the section of the soaps and stuff. And so I stood there kind of like in a rush, but like hovering, but not. And this gal looks at me and she goes, "Are you online?" And I said, no, I'm not in line. I'll wait. Like, it's totally fine. Even though I was like, hurry up. And she goes, "No, online, like internet." And I was like, "Well, yeah." And she goes, "You are recovery is the new black." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I guess I am." And
Wow.
she is like, "I love you. My book club loves you. My best friend loves you. My husband didn't divorce me because of you."
Oh my
And
God.
her daughter looks at me and bawled. I was bawling. Mom was bawling. And she's like, "You saved my mom's life, and I have my mom back." And we were all sitting there bawling our faces off because I didn't do anything. I just showed up and cheered her on. Like, I didn't change her life. She made the choice to change her own life. And it was such a beautiful moment for me that there's nothing I can ever explain that feels as good as that felt to me. Even all the messages and emails and everything else that I get, that just, it filled my heart and made me so proud to know that this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. People are listening, people are changing their lives, and this is possible. So that's one that will always stick near and dear to my heart.
I mean, oh my God. I'm like, don't cry, don't cry. No, that's amazing. And that's one of those things, one of those experiences that make all the pain, everything that you went through is sort of worth it, right? It's like maybe you wouldn't have chosen to, have all that pain, but, we do not regret we don't shut the door on the past or regret oh my God, I've only been doing this for a couple of decades. You know what I'm saying, right? You get older, you forget things. Wish to
You know what, though? It's like, my doula told me when I had my babies, the only way out of the pain is through the pain. So push, Michelle, push. And I remember that. The seeds are being planted. It's just like, am I going to stop being stubborn and look? What is the world telling me? What is the universe telling me? Everyone around me are teachers. They're not trying to hurt me, right? And
Yeah.
it's like the only way out of this misery that I'm creating is myself. And if I get out of my own way and do really hard things, look at the beautiful life that I'm having now because I didn't give up or take my own life. Like, there was so many moments where I literally should not be here right now. And I'm
Yeah.
here, and there's a reason for it. And I want other people to know that this is really hard. Addiction, mental health, all of it is so, 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 so hard.
Very
But there
hard.
is a way to get through it. You become such a better version of yourself if you continue to keep fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of my favorite things is an acronym for HOPE is help others, help other people out every day. Something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Just being of service. They say that nothing ensures sobriety like intense work with another alcoholic, right? Helping other
It's,
people out is,
yep,
yeah, I think when we give the solution, we recognize that it was within us all along, right? There's
absolutely.
something really magical about that. So besides Recovery is the New Black, what are some ways that people can get a hold of you or find out more about you?
I am I wrote a book. So I'm
Yeah.
super excited about that. I hope that with the pandemic, it's been delayed. So this coming up year, 2021, I'll be launching my book. I am launching a podcast January, hopefully. So that's going to be tips, tools, hacks, tricks, all about mommy wine culture and surviving motherhood, alcohol free. So that's going to be really exciting. And let's see, what else do I have going on? I have the Sober Mom Squad. I am a host over there, which is a huge squad of women. There are 5 of us total that are in the recovery community, and all moms
I
ranging
know
from a year.
Emily's in there,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Ranging from a
Yeah.
year to 16. And so, Emily saw a need in this pandemic that was like, how do we be a service? And the 4 of us, including, in addition to her, said, hey, let's do something. What can we do to help these women? Because us moms are struggling with remote work, learning, all of the things that we're going crazy, and we have some years of sobriety. What is happening? And all these mixed messages with the solution to the pandemic is quarantinis, and we're doing Zoom happy hours. And when people are struggling, and when, it's illegal to go get a haircut, but it is legal to get cannabis and alcohol delivered to your car and drink it and smoke it, there's something wrong during this lockdown. And so we started with a free Zoom, and we had over 600, then 1,000, and our groups just blew up. And now we have 21 Zoom meetings a week.
Oh.
We have experts come in and do live webinars. We have group coaching. We have a private forum off of social media. It is incredible, these moms that they have connected throughout the world of just cheering each other on. And a big, huge piece of also my self-care and my sobriety toolbox is podcasts and like Audible books. And I treat these Zooms the same way, because it's like
Yeah.
pockets of time, right? For mothers, you don't have a lot of time. And so I encourage these women to, again, be fly on the walls, listen to the Zoom. Don't show your face, just have connection.
Yeah.
Fold your clothes, drive your kids to soccer practice. It doesn't have to be anything big and fancy. Just start listening to other people. And so those Zooms have been incredible for the Sober Mom Squad. And that just kind of caught on like wildfire across the world. Lots of national attention, lots of news articles and press that we've been doing. It's just been incredible. And these women are like the best friends I never knew that I needed in my life.
Oh.
They are as authentic and funny and beautiful, and they're all humanitarians. They all volunteer. We all do so much behind the scenes that we don't show through the eyes of social media. They're absolutely incredible human beings. So it's an honor to be doing this with them and to not be fighting this alone, because I know that I'm far from alone. But sometimes when you're up against people like big alcohol, you feel so small and so alone in this world that is telling us it's okay to drink excessively and binge drink, when we just want people to know that if you choose a life of sobriety, that's okay. And they want to normalize sobriety the way that we are normalizing other things in the world. So the Sober Mom Squad, if you guys have not heard of them. And the cool thing is too, is that you don't have to just be a biological mom. You can be a dog mom, a foster mom, a bereaved mom.
Yeah.
Bonus mom, all the things.
All the moms. Well,
Yep.
that is beautiful. I will leave links to all the things. What is the name of your book?
It's Recovery is the New Black.
Oh, okay.
It could be subject to change with, a
You
traditional
might have
publisher.
a little tagline to that, maybe, probably.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
No, that's so exciting. Very excited for your podcast as well. Obviously, I'm a fan of podcasting, so it's It's been a huge gift to me in my life. But I will leave links to all of this in the show notes as well as all your social stuff. But I just wanted to thank you so much for all the work that you're doing and the way that you support other women. Anybody who is really on the front lines has a special place in my heart. So thank you so much for all the work that you do.
Thank you. And thank you for everything that you do too. And it's been an honor to be able to chat with you and connect with you and be sober sisters together.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
Yes. Thank you. You have a great day and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
Okay.